Are you petering out? Do you need a cookie? So my name is Kelly Corrigan, and I have a feeling that my participation here might be a bit of a head scratcher. So by way of explanation, in addition to writing books, I also hosted a 12-part conversation series for Ev Williams and the whole team at Medium. And Adam Lashinsky came and saw me interviewing Nick Kristof, which turned out to be a real bang-up conversation. Who knew Nick Kristof could be so wild? And that's how I ended up here on the stage with the CTO of the United States. Hello. So thank you very much for having me. So you're about a year into the job.
Yeah, September. So.
And there's a CTO and there's also a CIO.
Right.
So will you talk about the distinction between those two?
Yeah, so CIO is not my job. Tony Scott is the federal CIO, Chief Information Officer, so all the IT systems and ringleading all the IT leaders across all the different agencies. The Chief Technology Officer is a new job that President Obama created on his first day. We're embedded at the Office of Science Technology Policy, which is where the President's Science Advisor is. And our job is harness the power of data, innovation, and technology on behalf of the American people. So it's very much an instigation and policy job, and really innovation and sort of advance the field of not only tech, but like how we do things. And really, the topics are quite open, and so we prioritize those with the president based on what we and he think could be the best places to move on.
So given that the CIO is really worrying about cybersecurity, I would love your informed opinion. Like, what does it take to keep our data safe at that level, and do we have everything in place that we need? How close are we to being safe?
Yeah, I think this is one of the topics of our times, right? The cover of Fortune today, right now, as we're here, is about this topic with some of the private sector folks. You know, when I was in Silicon Valley, we had lots of these challenges. We're having them in the federal government. So how are we approaching these? Tony and the team are doing an extraordinary job. There's, I mean, across the country, we have top talent working on this, and that's true. We need to upgrade a lot of systems. One of the things the president is doing in general is we've created the United States Digital Service, which is how to bring more technical leadership from kind of the Silicon Valley, the tech sector of America into government. And so that's true. In cyber, we already have extraordinary people, need to keep adding to that. The companies need to keep pushing that. The president had a summit earlier this year on cybersecurity. Huge area to work on. There's both the immediate work, Tony has a cyber sprint going on, et cetera, but there's also the how do we get more of our youth interested in this topic? It's a great service thing to protect people. How do we get more diverse talent across the board? The challenges come from all over the place. Some of them are from national actors, some are from criminal actors. How are we being the most creative that we can and taking as many American youth and anybody in on the game?
Is there anybody here who has served in the public sector?
Yes, no, there's a few.
Thank you. One person. Would you maybe consider serving in, how many people here would consider serving in the public sector?
A few, yay, thank you. So this is part of the question, which is, it's something I observed coming in. You know, we have, across the government, we have elite principals in all the sectors, like the Surgeon General or the CDC lead for medical, or judges, you know, Supreme Court, or any of our leaderships, DOJ, lawyers, speechwriters, all of, I call it like TQ, like tech, like EQ, IQ, TQ. Yeah. There's sort of humanities Q, science and med Q, but the TQ, the digital people, haven't been at the principal level. So the president, with the CTO's office and now the United States Digital Service, getting leaders who are fluent in digital technologies into the leadership positions in government, so that we can be looking at technology as have technologists in our policy conversations, as well as economists and lawyers and others at the principals table when we're deciding net neutrality, when we're deciding encryption, when we're deciding about patents, but also when we're purchasing. You know, most of the federal technology should be made by outside people. It should be either off the shelf or custom or however. That is, the government isn't here to build tech. But we should be having really informed technical folks in the architecture side and the purchasing decisions, together with fabulous eGov teammates on the purchasing side.
And is it just an oversight? I mean, how did we get here? How did we miss this for so long in terms of staffing properly for the digital age?
I'm not sure how we did it. We do it really, we pay attention to this when we're at war. You know, it's all hands on deck. In fact, you know, if you look at even World War II and the recent Imitation Game movie out of the UK, or our work, we invented computers. during World War II. Like, we just get moving. But we just got in this direction, and the president saw it. And I think he started it with this innovation office of our seat, but then really in healthcare.gov. Seeing this, now if you look at the Affordable Care Act, here 19 million Americans have healthcare now, saving billions of dollars. It's an amazing, to me, new to government, to me it's breathtaking what they've done from a policy, ledge, business model. They've done it, and then this website was going to tank the policy.
Right, and it's all anybody talked about.
Right, and so we needed those people. Luckily, there had been a program called Presidential Innovation Fellows, so some of them were there, others piled on. And I think for the leadership teams, they witnessed the agile way that we build products, not a procurement way, but the way that we do things. They saw a stand-up, and they saw bug lists and analytics and tracking. They're like, there's this set of Americans and a set of behavior that is not happening in government, and we need them to come. So the U.S. Digital Service was born out of that. Mikey Dickerson leads it. It's embedded across government. So it's a hub and a spoke model. So you have the Office of Management and Budget where the headquarters team is, but they're in the GSA with things like data.gov and USA.gov and 18F team, the general sort of services group. They're in the VA. They're in immigration. And now Congress gave us $20 million to do the first set of projects. They're doing 10 projects. It's amazing to watch them.
Yeah.
We have 130 people in the federal government since August who have come from Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and WordPress and just extraordinary talent. The #3 employee of Amazon is an engineering manager in the VA. And what do you do after you make Amazon? The veterans. It's an amazing second act. And so we have a new leader, early leader of Amazon on the operations side who's just joined as the DOJ's digital service lead. So it's incredibly exciting. And I encourage those who raised their hands to come, and those who didn't raise their hand to consider coming in a reserves way on rotation.
So everything that's been ever written about you makes this kind of crack about how you went from working on driverless cars to floppy disks. And I wonder how difficult it was for the White House to recruit you from Google.
I've yet to see a floppy disk, so I need to really
Let's
actually
put that to
find
bed
one.
then. Somebody tweet that, please.
Yes, but I had never considered coming, and I got an email. I was actually in Africa working on a thing called Solve4X with Google X. Lots of incredible entrepreneurs are rising out of Africa. I encourage people to get involved there. The next Global Entrepreneurship Summit, actually, Helen was just here, the Pages Presidential Entrepreneurship folks are over there. I was there, and I got an email, and then shortly thereafter talked to Todd Park, who was CTO at the time. And at first I was like, go to Washington? What are you talking about? And then as he described what was needed and what the job was, it's really an extraordinary thing, and it's an honor to be asked to do it. And Alex McGilvery, who was the general counsel of Twitter, a coder lawyer, came at the same time. And one of the things we said was, as we go in, could we get our colleagues to think that this would actually be something someone would say? That they would say, I have this cool startup I might do. I got this job offer from fill in the blank, Twitter, Dropbox, its companies, or I got an offer from the VA, and someone would credibly say that, and they'd credibly choose that. And so it's our hope that we can bring that, and that just like our colleagues who are lawyers, who often have a clerking experience in their lives, that we can rotate in and out of government. Secretary Carter was just out in Silicon Valley. They're opening an office in Moffett Field to increase the relationship between DoD and the leadership in the Valley. The 18F team is up near the Twitter offices, sort of in UN Plaza, as well as in DC. So we're trying to get sort of reaching out. They're in Chicago, they're in Boston, they're in New York. So can we have the American technical talent anywhere? So I'm really happy that I was asked to consider this. It's an honor. I hope that we're going to do extraordinary things, not only with this one group that I'm talking about, which is how do we make our websites and our services and our products the quality that we have as American people in our commercial sector, because we have those Americans.
Right.
How do we do that and encourage our people to come? And then how do we also get more Americans in on this kind of innovation economy that we're part of?
Right.
People in Baltimore, people in Nashville, people in everywhere in the sectors across, not just in our brain hubs, as Enrico Moretti calls them.
Is there any conversation about making computer science like a required part of the curriculum so that you just had more sort of general knowledge? I mean, I just had to literally bribe my 13-year-old daughter to take computer science in high school, and I just thought, well, when she has to take French and she might not take computer science, like, what is going on here?
Yeah, the president's really pushing us on this, and he participated a lot in there's the Computer Science Education Week, which is actually named, it happens in December because it's Grace Hopper's birthday and Ada Lovelace's birthday. Ada, of course, invented the idea of programming. Grace invented computer languages. We're working on getting them to be known more like the other folks of their level. But he participated in that, and Code.org has been terrific working with us. So it's harder in our education system because we're so federated, and each of the different school districts runs that, and the states run that. But really pushing hard to get that. We got 7 major school districts, the largest, to sign up. 35 total, but the 7 majors, Miami-Dade, the Houston area, others, New York City, and committing to middle school and high school coding. And from a competitive perspective, some countries are moving right into there. I brought the Raspberry Pi out. The UK, second graders are coding Raspberry Pi. This is $7. The advanced one is $35. So a second grader can usually read. They can do instructions like cooking a meal, learning how to do that, so they can follow instructions. So the UK is on this, South Korea is on it, New Zealand, Israel, Estonia. You know, people are moving. We need to do that ourselves and have the will and get it done.
So let's talk about other countries. Like, are we the best place in the world for innovation and entrepreneurs, or not quite?
I think we're an extraordinary place for innovation entrepreneurs. We just did the Select USA event, which is where the sovereign wealth funds and others come together. And I had a panel on innovation. And it was interesting, from the very large companies like Siemens to a very tiny company that's actually co-located between Nairobi and New York in sort of agriculture data, big data. They all were saying how important it is to have, they were all international companies, but to have a foot in the US. And so it's our culture, it's our talent, is very attractive. It's our approach. Not every state has this, but some states are really strong in the way that we're organized. The SBA is working hard to do Startup in a Day. We're going to have the first ever White House Demo Day on the 4th of August, so that should be really exciting and celebrating entrepreneurship. The country's always been good at that.
What's
we just
Demo
have
Day?
to get, like a demo-a-thon. So we're going to have entrepreneurs showing off great companies that they have in all different sectors from all across the country. We have an inclusivity theme. So men and women, people of all ages, people of all races, people of all different topics, locations, and the kind of entrepreneurship that's going on. And really trying to push hard. You know, in the US, only 3% of venture money is going to women entrepreneurs. That's a problem. Less is going to people of color. We're wasting all that talent. So in addition to what we have, which I'm encouraged by, let's bring all the Americans into that.
So state it once and for all. Why is diversity, racial diversity and gender balance, why is that to all of our benefit in tech?
Well, all of the studies show that you just make better products if you have more diverse teams. And actually, from a financial performance perspective, a lot of the studies, there's McKinsey, Catalyst, other studies, if you have a diverse board, you just actually have better performance. So it's not only morally like an important thing to do, a critical important thing to do, inclusion of talent, but also it's a shareholder value question. And so you need to be doing that. Whoa. See, someone else cares about it.
He agrees. Yeah, thank you. And she agrees. Damn it.
Someone up there agrees.
Oh, I've been brainwashed my whole life.
And it's amazing. The thing that I try to do in this area, because it's hard. I mean, we sit with unconscious bias that we've inherited. It's not like any of us created the problems that we face. But boy, do we have them, and we're starting to see them. For me personally, I'm working in the most diverse team I've ever worked in my life. And when I come into Silicon Valley, I went to CES, was the first event. It's shocking to walk into that culture. It's literally shocking. And I realized, like, I love all my colleagues in tech, but we need the rest of our talent of our country in, and we have to figure out how to adapt our culture to welcome, to figure out what is it in advancement and retention in our unconscious bias and our hiring practices. The science is there and the research is there. I see Laura Mather, who's got an amazing company called Unitive. There's people out there like her who are using software to try to help us overcome our unconscious bias. We just have it. The human mind needs to make decisions with imperfect knowledge, and that's what we do. So we pattern map our entrepreneurs, and so we always keep choosing the same ones instead of seeing other paths.
Yeah. So there's just a thing, did anybody read this in the New York Times this morning about algorithms having the same sort of human biases? Anybody? No? Nobody read this morning? What kind of people are you? But anyway, one of the things that it said is that when you search in Google for CEOs and female CEOs, the first picture of a woman to appear was the CEO Barbie doll.
Wow, that's interesting.
So maybe you could talk to your old friends at Google and have them look into this.
I can't talk to them legally, but other people,
you can.
You can. But yeah, you see it in image search. You look for doctor or nurse. You see what comes up. So, and actually, do you guys know the Clue Train Manifesto? Fabulous book. There's a list of the new clues they published. I love those guys. And the first clue is the internet is not like wires and tech, and it's actually the internet is just us. It's just us. So the internet is full of all of our greatness and all of our biases and racism and misogyny. It's all of that is there. Our love, our Wikipedia, you know, and our collaboration and that. So it comes through in the algorithms there.
Because when it comes through in the algorithms, it's easy to think that there's some higher order there that is more true or more pure than what you and I might accidentally reveal in terms of our biases. You know what I mean? So it's extra dangerous when it comes out, gets spit out from a computer. So while you're still CTO, and I'd love to know how long you'd be willing to do this job, what are sort of your big 3 things that are on your list?
So we prioritize 3 areas. One is there's a lot of technology policy topics today. I mean, Helen was just here on UAV. So UAVs and spectrum, net neutrality. We've worked on encryption right now is part of a large conversation. The president has us in the middle of a policy process with colleagues on that. Patent reform, like the hot topics of right now, and making sure this TQ is at the table together with the economists and the lawyers and all the colleagues and all the American people weighing into that. So we're pushing a lot of that.
One piece of legislation that you could see changed before you have to leave on January 20th of 2016, 2017,
2017.
What would it be?
You know, I don't.
In terms of like
I don't know.
Huge impact.
I don't have any control over legislation, so I don't focus on that. I participate with colleagues as they go up and push and support that. But really, what can we get done on the executive branch in execution? So it might be more like executive orders and things that are laws that are there in the rulemaking and the implementation of those. So for example, the second area that we're very focused on is this part of digital government. So how are we institutionalizing all of the work that we're doing to bring extraordinary talent in? How are we making sure that the open source policies and all of the things that we need to do to have our government make great products or buy great products at the level that we're capable of building an industry, that we're institutionalizing that and bringing talent in. It's quite bipartisan. It's very encouraging. We see great support from Congress for both of that. And then the third area that I'm really focused on, I call Innovation Nation. And it's, again, how do you get more of the American people in? So an example would be, we are in the mountains. It's awesome.
Your flight's definitely going to be delayed.
It's going to be delayed, so I can hang out.
So we can talk all day now.
For example.
Because Megan's the only person here who didn't fly privately.
I did not. Taxpayer dollars. We have 5 million jobs open in the United States right now. 500,000 of them are in tech. Those jobs are all over the country. They're not just in the major hubs. They're in healthcare, they're in retail, et cetera. Companies are starving for this, and yet supply and demand's not working. Why are people not training for these jobs? They pay 50% more than the average American salary, and they're fun. So we need to get the word out and do things. So what we've been doing is a thing called Tech Hire, which the president pushed us to do. So we found people in St. Louis, Louisville, Delaware, other places who were working on an ecosystem where the employers were adapting their hiring practices. So in addition to a 4-year degree, they had seen the code boot camps, 3-month programs and apprentice programs, some paid, some not paid, different things. And so getting that ecosystem working and getting those people onboarding. In St. Louis, the Launch Code folks who are part of the Square alums had started a boot camp with just opening an arena and teaching a Harvard online class with everybody and getting them into the tech sector. In Delaware, the companies had organized themselves and were pushing for code boot camps in their community colleges. In the case of San Antonio, they were moving people to work for Rackspace for $15K per person, and they're like, why are we doing this? And so they opened up a free boot camp and started training people, especially on base. A lot of military folks there, as well as other people. So Americans getting it done, and what we did with that, same kind of Silicon Valley venture model, you look for someone who has a great solution and try to help them scale. We noticed this in pockets in the country. We brought them to the White House and started to workshop them with others. And now we have 21 cities in. We hope to double that this year and get thousands of Americans into these better, higher paying jobs and doing the extra work with the workforce development folks to be reaching into the poorer communities. So another example of that, Tech Hire Youth. This summer in Baltimore, Department of Labor released some money for youth jobs, high school jobs. So in addition to mowing the lawn or picking up paper or clerking, could we have them code? So we have a bunch of kids who are doing 2.5 weeks of web development and 2.5 weeks of developing websites for businesses that were hurt in the uprising. And so we've got kids doing that now. So
phenomenal.
So everywhere we look, we see opportunities that call it upgrading budgets and programs and things that our colleagues have where we know, hey, there's a tech meetup group in Boise, Idaho. They could be working on this. There's this group in Nashville, and getting that together with the money that we have as a federal government and the programs.
So before I open it up, I just had one more question. I read this great piece on Medium that said that while we're all worrying about cybersecurity, what we should really be worrying about is crappy software where they've got layers upon layers of software, and it's like the favelas in Brazil where they're all going to collapse.
Right.
So how do you marshal the will and the talent and the resources to be able to wash away all that horrible software over years and years and create like a solid foundation?
Right. So I don't know if you guys can
you hear us?
Can you still hear? Yes.
This is insane.
Okay.
Can we agree that this is insane?
Talk louder. So, will it help if I do that? Is that better? We've been doing a lot of things. One of my favorite things is the United States Digital Service immigration projects. Or this one I'll show you. You won't be able to see this, but this is a simple analytics dashboard. And it just says that there's 114,000 Americans on the websites right now. We would all have this in our companies, but government didn't have this. It's public now. Woohoo! Should we wait a minute? Are we good going? Can you hear that? Okay. So the top 20 websites, Weather Service, number 1. Check My Immigration Case, Storm Predictors, Social Security Administration, NOAA. So finally, we're starting to see what the American people are doing and what they want. And so, just simple things like this, analytics and things to help ourselves design better products. We're working on Transaction One. Last year the U.S. delivered 26 million passports. We do flight transactions. We do a lot of transactions. So Walmart and Amazon, they all have transaction dashboards. We need them. The team that's doing immigration, this is all USDS, Mikey Dickerson's team, not my team. I love that they've taken these forms and now they have these beautiful websites. It's so hard to figure out what visa you need and how to go through that process. So how do we shorten the time for immigration? So even if we're waiting right now for Congress to do different things, we, the executive branch, can get a lot of operational things done and try to get people through these processes faster, make them much more customer service oriented, help people. If you lose your green card, should you really wait 9 months? Right. No. We should fix those processes, fix the web experience. And so that's the kind of stuff we're really diving into. So a lot of times that does look like whole green new code, maybe with APIs plugging into an older system and then eventually upgrading the back end. So it's sort of in stages.
Yeah. All right, we have 6 minutes left. Does anyone have a question? Yeah, right here. You definitely need a microphone.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Jocelyn from Open Table. I just wanted to say that I think what you're doing is amazing.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, it's really amazing. And that's part of my question. I was at jury duty a couple of months ago, and I just had this really weird, what I do every day is so different from what I'm doing now moment. And I'm wondering how we can help. Not by all moving to Washington, which probably is a dream for some people, but how can we who work in the companies help not only provide the experience for the government, but for our own employees too, to get that cycle going?
Yeah, thank you for that question. There's several things you can do. Already, a couple companies, Apple, Facebook, Google,
I'm forgetting some, have already created leave policies so that people can come for periods of time. In fact, a couple of people actually came to help with the visa crisis, which was terrific. So the way the USDS is structured, the United States Digital Service is structured, is so that we can take people for 3 months or 6 months or a year, as well as full-timers. So although I warn you that when they come, they love the service, so sometimes they stay. But a lot of them will rotate through. So if people can create ability for people to rotate with us and make people know about that opportunity, that's terrific. We also have an idea, we call them the Obi-Wans, which is people who just coach. They might not be full-time with us, but they're available to coach on topics. It's very helpful. We've done like 2-week design sprints. We just did one with Treasury around MyRA and some of their products. We did it around how we communicate with the American people and upgrading our social media policies. So there's ways to do that. So anybody wants to do that, we would love to have help there. The other one is, wherever you are located, we're all part of what I call Innovation Nation, and there's other people where we are who are not in that experience. They're in either a rusty company or they're in a very difficult situation. And so doing things with Code for America at the local and the state level, doing things with the mayor's office, bridging our TQ into the places where we are. I got to give the commencement address at MIT this year. And what I said to them was, you got to show up like you do at MIT or Silicon Valley, where there's lots of us and it's dense and we advance our field and we do extraordinary things. But also, please show up where you are rare, where there's other colleagues that are good at other things, because you can add a lot to them. I tell my colleagues, you know, we have these awesome cars with flat tires. So just get a couple techies, we'll pump up the tires and we're going to go fast, because they have great policy things that they have done. The mayors, all these people want to do terrific work. They just don't have what we have. And the thing I might end that thought on is my friend, one of my teammates, Jake, he says, you know, a lot of times our colleagues who don't work the way that we do, they think that tech is an ingredient. It's just a piece of the puzzle. Jake's like, no, it's the pan. It's the pan. So they need us everywhere. And one of the things I'm finding in government, they wouldn't think to invite us to the Rural Child Poverty meeting, they'd invite us to the NASA meeting. So we try to show up there in the Rural Child Poverty meeting. I was just in the Dakotas and Minnesota on tribal land, some of the poorest places. You know, people with life expectancy in Pine Ridge is 48 years old. Average salary is $4,000, 70% unemployment, 30% graduation rate from high school. Abject poverty. Worse than Haiti. And so what can we do there? We were out there working on connectivity, because it turns out there's fiber in the ground, and if we connect the dots, we can start to do really interesting things with the great talent there. So it's sort of showing up in those places, and they're in our, so my point to you guys, they're in all our cities where you guys live. So it's an opportunity to kind of almost barn raise the country, just get your stuff with their stuff, and we'll see great change. We already see it when we do it locally.
How about one more question right here?
Thanks. Laura Mather from Unitive. Just an observation, as a technologist, you actually are a minority in government, so you're helping with diversity in that way. But having worked at federal government, it's not known for being super diverse. Do you think the government's going to change their diversity?
I think it is changing. It's interesting to watch how good a job the DoD is doing at historically black colleges and tribal colleges, other places, reaching out and really getting the curriculum. We, the more techie digital folks, need to reach into those curriculums. Several companies are already doing that. We need to do that. So I think it depends on where you are. I think some of the security sectors, which is where you had been working, are not as diverse, and that was the point we were talking about. I think the long view is get more talent, diverse talent, even short view, into that. So we are thinking in whole other ways than we might think if we have only a particular group of people, really critical. And I'm very hopeful about us also as we wake up on the diversity challenges. We're really good when we actually see a problem as an industry. And so I think that as we wake up, if we could move the priority of diversity and inclusion from top 20 to top 5, like Intel just did, I think we'll start really cranking. And I'm excited about that starting to happen with a couple companies.
Well, listen, it is not my place to say it, but thank you so much from all of us who live in this country for throwing your big, huge brain and your bursting heart and all your enthusiasm and passion at the problems for our country.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.